I'm here at the legendary Car and Horses after having had a absolutely fantastic chat with Gypsy's Kiss down from the Iron Maiden family tree. Absolutely great time talking with the guys about all the exciting things that are coming up in their 50th year as a band. We've got the album, we've got the tour. Check out the video to hear more.
And we've come to play. We've come to play. We've come to play.
So, number one, I have to ask, in the last 50 years, how has this place changed and developed, and what's it like being a part of it?
Well, we are standing on the old stage from the early 70s, which is now downstairs. It was always an iconic music pub. I first came in here in 1971 as a child, obviously, and it was bands Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday, and it was the place to go. It was the place Steve and I went to watch other bands, and we would think, wow, wish we could play there one day. And we did 50 years ago. Where have all those years gone? Always a music pub in a very music area, and it's great to be back. Great to be playing here again.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely fantastic, and it must have changed, you know, a lot inside. I mean, the decor is...
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. It was a little bit more spit and sawdust in those days, and 5 deep at the bar trying to get a light and bitter. But yeah, the pub has done a fantastic job to resurrect those years and to build a great venue downstairs that can not only put on bands that, you know, are old and have been around that, but young bands too, and it's fantastic for the area, and, you know, huge praise to Castro and his team for doing it.
We did play here upstairs once. That's our signed drum skin up there,
Okay.
taking pride of place. And then shortly after that, the place shut down and was refurbished, and it's fantastic now.
There's no link to that, by the way, that we played here and then the place shut down. That's just a coincidence.
Wasn't a demolition gig or anything, was it?
It's
We
a lot
did that
cleaner
to the
now
place.
as well. A lot cleaner.
Yeah, a lot cleaner.
Yeah, all I can remember about that was there was a pillar. I don't know if it's one of those pillars, and I was standing right behind it, so there's very little footage of me.
So the downstairs is quite a recent, or in the last...
Absolutely, and it's a great venue, and, you know, we love playing here. Looking forward to coming back again.
Post-COVID, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, they've done a phenomenal job, and
It's really good.
absolutely fantastic. Really great space. And obviously, in the early years, kind of very very early on, there were mumblings of rehearsals in the venue to begin with.
Well, we used to, Steve and I and all of the band live really locally to here. And as I said before, it was the place we wanted to play. So, you know, when we had a gig here, we'd get here as early as we could so we can, you know, do a bit of last minute rehearsal here. But primarily our rehearsals were in arches under railway bridges and things. It was, you know, not the sort of sophistication you might expect now. But always a great place to play then and now. Iconic.
Absolutely iconic. I think if there's one word that can sum up this place and what it kind of resonates, definitely iconic is the word for that. And I mean, in all this time, you know, the music world has developed extraordinary. It's changed, it's shape-shifted, it's gone into, you know, something completely different than what I can imagine it was. So how have you seen the last 50 years of the industry take a mold? It's a big question.
Well, I think it's David. I was 7 years old when this band first played, so he's the best guy to start with that, I think.
You know, I guess classic rock has always been classic rock. What we try to do is take classic rock from our roots, 70s classic rock, and try and update it as much as we and our audience can bear. Great rock music, and which is what this pub is here for, really, as a live music venue. Great music is still great music, and we try to keep that tradition alive, and that's our mantra in a way. I mean, interestingly, in our set, and, you know, Jonathan's mentioned how old he was when this band was first formed. is that we are still playing some songs that were written in the 70s, that we wrote in the 70s, and we put them in our set now, and we've modernised them for sure. But we still think they stand up.
Do you know, the best way I can describe it, we played a festival last year, and there were two people that I met in the hotel the morning after, and they said they didn't really like rock music, but they came along because their friend was in another band, and the first band they saw was us. And they stood there and thought, they looked at each other, we love this. And they loved the music, because the songs that now Gypsy's Kiss do, a little bit, there's a twist.
Yeah.
It's not just classic rock, there is a twist. And I think that's the hooks. And it was catchy, and they could sing along straight away, and they loved that. I think that's part of it. That from the 70s rock, you know, I don't want to say sludgy, but you know what I mean, it's that kind of generic sort of thing. I think we changed it a little bit, maybe.
And I guess
Pop
audiences now, expect entertainment, not just music.
Yeah.
So what we try to do is to put on a show,
Yeah.
entertain the audience, play up a bit to what we are and where we've come from. But it's about entertainment, not just music now. Audiences are very selective; they can be.
Yeah, the gig we did on Friday there, it's interesting. There's a bunch of people of our age in the audience, and then there's a bunch of 20-year-olds down the front headbanging as well. And they came up to me afterwards and said it's like seeing a stadium rock band in a venue, a small venue. Yeah. Because we're all, we've been playing for a long, long time in different guises. So we're used to entertaining audiences. So it's all just this band is where hopefully it all comes together. All those years. I mean, if you add up our number of years on stage, it's probably 150 years worth of experience. I know, it's a lot, isn't it? And it all comes out in this band. So,
And one of the nicest quotes from a gig like that is one of those young lads came up to you and said, "You're nothing like my dad."
Yeah, that's when I think we all have that moment when we're going, why can't you, come on, why can't you be, getting up there and doing that? But I think that's a blessing of being able to play these kind of venues. Like you said, it's so nice when you've got such a stadium sound, you've got such a wonderful, extortionate, history behind the band. So I think for the fans to be able to come and experience you in an intimate setting where they can talk to you after, they can chat, they can.
Yeah, absolutely.
You must kind of see it within the fans
and without giving too much away, as I said, we are standing on the old stage of the Cart and Horses here. I stood on this stage as a 19-year-old thinking, I wonder if I'll be back here in 50 years' time doing it again. I doubt it, and here we are.
Yeah, I guess once it's in your bones, it's in your blood. There's no losing the music.
I think we're, and I speak for the whole band, there are three of us here, we're as enthusiastic about live performance and recording good music as I've ever been, as we've ever been.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
We are passionate about, and still passionate about, bringing good music to people, and we just hope they like it. That's all we can do. Hope they like it, and so far it's gone okay. We've a new single coming out and an album coming out, which hope the audience like it as much as we do.
Yeah, I mean, when you see the response, and there's a reason why you're still doing it, for because it's music is in your souls, but also it's because the fans, they love it, and the kind of the eager anticipation and the joy from what I've spoken to people from when you guys get the album out and everything. It's been such a warm response.
Yeah, great response. And Metal Talk have been a big part of that as well. Right from the day that we got together with David and decided to do all this, Metal Talk have supported us. And really, really, that's amazing. I remember, Steve coming down to the Cavern, probably the first gigs we played at the Cavern in Southwest London, and he was just so enthusiastic, and it's carried on. So, thanks to you guys.
Well, I mean, the enthusiasm carries on for good reason, More Gypsy's Kiss, always. And so as we mentioned, the album that's coming out, and you had a few singles out. I have to ask, your writing process, David, especially for the last kind of 50 years, has there been, obviously there's natural progression and shift, but how do you feel in yourself, that kind of writing changes, and for you and for the band in the collaborative sense?
I guess when I was writing the songs, which by the way we still play, but developed enormously by these guys. I was a young lad writing post-punk songs with appalling lyrics and 3 chords. We tried to develop that a bit now. I think we're up to 5 chords in some of our best songs.
6 if you're lucky.
You write as a young person. You pour out your soul more in 3 chords, and as Fraser said before, this is 2024. We try and do it a little bit more artistically and a little bit more thoughtful, but ultimately we sit in a room and thrash out a few songs and think, this might work. An interesting thing about the use of technology and whatever. COVID was quite an interesting era for the world, but for us, we wrote and recorded remotely and sent each other stuff in from each of our studios and then put it together. And it's an interesting discipline that we sort of still do. We exchange between us lots of writing and music ideas, and we exchange them now, using technology that's available to us in our home studios. And it's changed their writing approach hugely.
I think it's a modern way of doing things. Everything is done remotely. It's taken me a bit of time to get used to it. These 2 guys have been working away and creating what I think is really great music, and I can say that because I wasn't part of the writing process. I think I only took part in 1 song for the last album, but the songs, I was amazed when it came finished, and some of these things you play them live and you think this is real quality, and I'm now playing catch up because I've kind of learned the process, and the next album hopefully will build on that. I think already the songs that these 2 have written are improving and generating that electricity and the power. Not just that, because as I was trying to hint earlier, there is a kind of pop hook to a lot of this stuff, so you could call it rock metal pop. It's just amazing.
That's my ABBA influence, I think.
Never a bad influence.
No.
ABBA, no.
When I was like,
exactly.
when I was a young teenager and played in various bands, and you would literally turn up with an idea in your head. You might have a little tape recorder or something, and you were trying to explain to 5 guys what you're hearing, and it can get very frustrating. But with COVID, we got onto things like GarageBand, so you can pretty much put your vision down and then share it, and it is a lot easier to do it that way. Occasionally we'll be in the studio and something will pop up, but it's almost all pre-planned, a lot more than you might expect. We're not Deep Purple. We don't just walk into a room and go, here's a riff, let's do it. So maybe we should occasionally try and do that, but it has mainly been pretty well set out before we get to anyone else. And then we've got a keyboard player, so we're all guitar players. We've got a keyboard player who definitely adds another angle. And I personally can't. David can play the keyboard, I can't. So our keyboard player broadly has to just listen to this and figure out, with these 3 guitars, what am I going to do? And part of the trick is to make space for him, because it gives it a whole different dynamic to most bands. 3 guitars and a keyboard, but it is quite hard because that's 4 melody instruments. So you've got to really work on giving space to each other rather than everybody trying to do everything all the time. So I'd say COVID probably made us better, because you could just sit at home and work things out a little bit more fully before you share it.
I mean, that's kind of the one big question is with 3 guitars there, like you say, with the keys as well. It's a lot of instruments, but it's
a lot of equipment to carry around.
But do you think that's the essence of the sound kind of comes from that?
The sound that I think these guys too came from was twin guitars, 3 guitars, harmonies, Wishbone Ash, Thin Lizzy, those great bands. And I think that's where a lot of our work is we try to intertwine guitars, do harmonies, do all of that within it. And we've added keyboards as a sort of a texture that wraps around the guitars. We hope it doesn't clash. It's never our intention to do that.
You need a good sound man on stage, really, don't you, to make sure that all those instruments come through. And we have a few fights occasionally about who plays what as well, obviously, but that's musician.
That's being in a band, that's so.
For the older viewers who might be watching this, that that Iron Maiden and Steve would identify that his roots were in progressive rock, in prog rock, you know, where there were massive keyboard players and guitars playing intricate parts. And I think we've just tried to take that forward. You know, it's very much in our soul, in what we do.
The other thing I've noticed is the bands that do a lot of harmonies, like Thin Lizzy and Wishbone Ash and Iron Maiden. I mean, Iron Maiden have got 3 guitarists now, but for most of the time they only had 2. So if you listen to the record, there's going to be a rhythm guitar and 2 leads.
Yeah.
So we can actually do that on stage, whereas most of them can't. If the 2 guitars come off the rhythm and start playing the harmony, it can be a bit empty.
Yeah.
You know, so actually it's an advantage to have the 3, isn't it?
I absolutely agree with that. Yeah,
I guess
use
when
it
you're-
properly and it works.
Even better if one of you breaks a string on stage.
So it's actually because it's good backup.
Well,
Yeah,
unfortunately, my
absolutely.
guitar broke down, and I don't think anyone noticed for about 5 minutes. And then he broke a string and just grabbed one of mine. So yeah, having a lot of guitars lying around isn't such a bad thing either.
Yeah, we'll put that one in the playbook for bands getting together.
I think we went
Yeah.
from 3 guitars to 1 guitar for a moment, and that was
Yeah.
kind of stressful when there are 3 parts.
Yeah, we'll put it down as, you know, a melodic change suddenly in the set.
You've got to look like
Yeah.
it's fine and it's deliberate, and I'm just going to change my guitar halfway through a song and then fiddle with a few switches. Just keep a straight face.
Yeah.
no-
Bring that vibe to our new album. You know, we're just suddenly 2 guitars will cut out and there's only one.
And are we expecting a bit of that on the album, or
Guitars
what's-
cutting out, hopefully not.
Not guitars cutting out, but what's kind of the?
Well, we've a single out on the 23rd of Feb, which we're really pleased about. Which, when you get to hear it, it's called "We've Come to Play," and it's not a biography, but it is about a band that do pretty well a long time ago, break up because they just do, and come back older, wiser, less ego, not looking for money, but just looking to play and entertain. And you know, we are of an age that we're not now doing this for our living. We're doing it because we like to play,
There's no
and we like to entertain. So that's what the new single's about, and the album that hopefully will be out in June will sort of. I think every song will be self-standing, but they will have a story to tell. One of the things about our roots and perhaps who we are is we like our songs to tell a bit of a story.
We do.
Good story or bad story. But the single we're really pleased about, and we just hope people will like it.
We had 2 songs out, and I actually thought that the other one should be the single, so we had a good argument about that. But actually, We've Come to Play it turned out just slightly more effective as a single, I think. It's very powerful. It's got a really good sort of sing-along chorus, not too complicated. I think that's one thing we're trying to do, because we're not a prog band, but we do have quite long proggy type passages on the first album, and we're just trying to make these songs 4 to 5 minutes rather than 6 plus. And this one just fits perfectly. You know, it's not hugely complicated in the end.
Because when you get to a certain age, songs that are too long, you need a little sit down afterwards. So
Yeah.
it's quite handy to
You can forget the middle passage so often in these things, don't you?
So we played our new single live for the first time last Friday.
And it didn't go wrong.
And it didn't go wrong and went down very, very well.
And it was the first time that I'd ever played it.
Okay,
Ever.
ever.
All the way through. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
The whole thing. Yeah, good fun.
Brilliant.
If you can write something in an audience who has not heard it, by the end of the song they're singing the chorus at you, then you know you've won.
I mean, then you've got a hit on your
Yeah.
hands. Yeah.
A minor hit maybe, but a hit never.
But a hit nonetheless. A good song is a good song. And so you mentioned with your upcoming single that, you know, resonates with a lot of Gypsy's Kiss story and your story.
Yeah.
And so do you think with the last 50 years and, you know, with Steve and Maiden and Gypsy's Kiss and the whole journey, do you feel like you are continuously putting a lot of that into the music and into the upcoming album?
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, we are a sum of our roots, good or bad. That's what we are. And you know, since these guys joined Gypsy's Kiss 6 years ago now, they brought so much to the sound, and without changing it, if that doesn't sound odd, you know, just added so much to the writing and the performance, but you can still hear the roots of 70s classic rock within it. Modernised, I hope, but The band have been very lucky with the lineup we've got. The great musicians individually, but collectively we do our thing. That's the plan anyway.
Bits of music from our past as well. I mean, one of the songs David wrote, which I'm now going to forget the name of, Nothing to Say. I don't know when you wrote that, but 10-15 years ago, and we just kind of made it a Gypsy's Kiss song. A couple of our songs, I've got riffs that I had since I was probably 16, and they're just in your head, and now it's all coming out. Trying to get rid of everything in our heads, get as much of it out there as you can.
Yeah, I mean, in these years as a musician, I can imagine you've constantly got things kind of whirring around and ready to play an instant.
Well, that song, Nothing to Say, is still evolving, really, weirdly, even now.
That's because we get in the middle wrong.
Because you've got everything to say.
It's a really good point Fraser makes, because the original songs and the original Gypsy's Kiss we still play. They are the essence of the old song, but they sound very different because these guys have modernised them. And we play them again now, and they are different because an audience helps you change them, and music evolves. I'd like to think, great bands out there, they take their old material, they make it sound the same, but they somehow improve upon it, and that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to show with when you released 74, and that was how was that process going about taking these songs and putting them out now?
Well, the songs that I wrote in the 70s, these guys, they were very kind. They didn't say, it's not going to work. It was, it was a bizarre process to take then 46, 7-year-old songs and bring them to other guys and say, what do you think about this? And turn them into things I'm really proud of.
And 3 of those came out before the album. Yeah. So actually, I think I'm right, only one of them, Endless Pit, was actually on the album because the other 3 had already been out. That's right, isn't it? As singles or what have you. So yeah, but things like the first song we did it here, talking about the history, David put the band back together for a festival called Birthplace, which was a sort of tribute to, a fundraiser for Clive Burr, and Influence was the first one, and it was really just like, as you said, that it's not got a lot of chords to it, but it was just really
harsh, but,
maybe three, but it was just really.
Sometimes that's all you need, if you can make a smashing song for 3 chords.
Sometimes that's all I knew.
Yeah.
But it's like a standard now that we can't not play.
Yeah.
And all we've really done, it's the same song, but all we've really done is sort of put a lot of guitar harmonies on it and things like that.
So it was the first song we ever performed, this band ever performed. It was the first song Steve Harris ever played. Yeah. As Jonathan said, for good reason, it's in our set now. And on our new single, in CD form, there is a live version of Influence that is included on it, because after 50 years we just sort of felt we ought to. It's a 50-year-old song, and we'll play it again, and we'll try and let people hear it, see if they enjoy it.
What goes around comes around after 50 years.
After 50 years, yeah. And I mean, how does it feel to you to play that song live now? Do you have a moment where you step back and go, wow,
absolutely, yeah. I still remember, the writing process of it, the first time it's in full. It's a different song now, but I still think, wow, who'd have thought standing where we are 50 years on and be playing that again here, and it's a great moment.
Yeah, do you think you would have believed yourself if you said no?
Absolutely not at all. The first time we played in here in 1974, the fee for the 4-piece band was £8, and we thought we did well.
Wow.
And it was a reasonably busy night. So would I come back 50 years later and earn £8? I don't know, maybe so, but it's great again to be back.
It might just cover a London pint as well, so
only just.
By a pint.
Yeah. And so you've got a bunch of live shows coming up.
Yes,
as well. What differs now? I mean, again, huge question, but what's your process now going into a show, taking, back in the 70s to now? What's the mentality? How is it very, I can imagine, different?
There's a lot more detail going into getting a lot of equipment in and getting set up. I mean, back in the old days here, are you doing a sound check? No one knew what that was. No. You'd never do that. You just put stuff out and you start plug and play, and then
you could tune the guitar.
And you try and get here, with massive 4x12s and an amp in somebody else's car, and somebody else would come on a bus with an amp, and we'd outside and we'd be in and ready to go, and it would be great. How we getting home afterwards, no idea. There's a lot more detail to it now. I mean, particularly if you're touring, it's really quite precise, but the fun's still there. It's fun back in the day, but it's still fun now.
It's more complicated now, more technical. There's more things to go through, but it's easier to do it in a way.
It's bigger stages now, so there's more things to trip up over. More things can go wrong, because you can actually move around. Back in the day, you'd move because you're on a tiny little stage.
One of the best things about technology is that most of our stuff is wireless now, so there's less cables for us to trip over on stage. It's
trip up over each other instead.
Was that a common feat back in the day?
Oh heavens, yes. The stage was covered with wires, and then it was you either pull one out with your foot or fall over it. It was a common thing.
It probably sounded terrible. I mean, with background noise and all the rest of it. I'm not talking about Gypsy's Kiss, but other bands I played in back in the day didn't even have a PA. Your singer would probably be singing through a bass amp or something like that. It did nothing.
So in the progression of music, it's done itself a lot of favours.
We've moved on from the 100-watt WEM PA with 2 stacks in here to something slightly more sophisticated that we don't have to worry about, because there's a sound man doing it.
It's much easier now to achieve a really, really good sound. Back in the day, it was really hard, really hard. Even though the equipment, vintage equipment is fantastic, but you put it in a setting like this, and it could echo and feedback and all sorts of things. And now you can really control that. So, the gigs coming up will be.
We're looking forward. We're doing some in Europe as well during the year, and we played in Europe over the past 2 years, and European audiences are very kind to us.
In what sense?
In the classic rock, metal, particularly in a British orientation, is really, really popular in Europe. Possibly even more so than in UK. Well, maybe that's slightly unfair, but it's British bands are welcomed in Europe, and we love that.
I think that's true. Classic rock bands do really, really well in Europe, Eastern Europe especially. It's like they're just breaking out still, and really just eager for hearing the music from Britain. A bit like it was back, way back, with the British invasion in America. So now Europe loves it. So we are looking at doing shows. Our promoter has been sent me a list of 19 possible clubs that we could be playing in Europe this year. Like, whoa, that's suddenly quite a lot, from going to Switzerland to Italy to Germany to France. So, come on. They're eager. So hopefully we'll be doing a lot more shows in Europe and the UK over the next couple of years.
So, you've heard it here first. It's the Gypsy's Kiss wine tour in next year.
Well, the Gypsy's Kiss, you heard it here first.
We're up for that one.
Gypsy's Kiss wine talk. We like that. We like that.
Trooper's great, but
Joel was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so you're off to Europe. You've got your shows here. Obviously, you're going to be here as well, which is. And do you still feel when you play here, Gypsy's Kiss, it is, especially for you, David, it's, I don't want to say homecoming gig, because as a band you are here, but do you feel there's just a different warmth to the show?
Here, oh, absolutely. Yeah. This is to me is a homecoming gig. Yeah. And every time we walk in here, it's like coming home, and I love it here. Just do it again, anytime.
So it's going to hold. Is that wrong? It's going to hold the flyer.
Oh yes. So we've got the flyer. 27th of April. Be certain to be there.
And not just us. We have assembled. a guest list and some other musicians to work with us on the night from, the Iron Maiden family. So it's going to be a great night.
He's understating that. It definitely is homecoming for David, for sure. 50 years on, pretty much to the day that Gypsy's Kiss played the first gig. So it's going to be a great night.
Yes, so monumental, absolutely monumental feel for you to be playing here again, and that feeling must not never go for you.
Well, this place has a special place in my heart, and I think it does for these guys here. I was born and brought up a mile up the road from here. I used to walk into this bar to watch other bands, and the thought of playing here then and now makes me very emotional. I love it.
Yeah. And for you guys 6 years in the band, but you must still feel that energy when you come and you play, and it must be fantastic to kind of be within that and be a part of that.
Yeah, it's overwhelming from day one. You really sense that. I mean, I didn't really know what I was getting into. Jonathan said to David, "Oh, get me in." I thought, okay, yeah, fine, let's do this. And then I think, hang on a minute, this is something big. The Maiden connection, here, everything. So, yes, it is, as you said, monumental. And the band could be monumental.
Absolutely. And that first Birthfest, the first gig we did, you could see there was a lot of Iron Maiden connections there, but for some reason people really looked after us and wanted us to play. But then coming here, which wasn't too long after that, I suppose, and seeing all the photographs and things like that, it's a really historical place. I'm so glad it stayed open, because it's quite difficult, I think, to run a live music venue, and we wish them all the best. And good. I don't know if you're going to get any photos, but if that place is full, it's dark and it's sweaty. It's fantastic. It's just what you want. It's just what you want.
That's how we like our venues. The nitty gritty, right up close.
Yeah, because we remember the old marquee, which was the classic. That was like the template for clubs to come, where you stand too long in one spot and you're stuck to the floor. It was dark and it smelled and it was horrible, and Lemmy was always by the bar, and it's like awesome. But
just for the record, of course, this place isn't dark and smelly.
I was about to say, this place is now super modern.
And the toilets are very clean here, aren't they?
Yeah,
just how we like them.
Just saying.
Yeah, the marquee wasn't like that.
Yeah.
But what they've done here, amazing.
Yeah. And I guess that's where the roots of rock and roll lay, in those dark, dingy, dirty. That's where it spawned from. That's how we like them.
Absolutely. Your feet don't stick to the floor anymore, but the beer is still nice. So.
Yeah. It's true. I'm from Yorkshire, and I used to go to a club in Scarborough, and that made the marquee look like the Palladium.
Yeah.
I mean, wow. It was grim, but some great bands played there.
Well, I used to go to the Glasgow Barrowland. From Glasgow. That was my place, and that shut down a long time ago. But that was probably the ultimate sticky carpet, horrible place. And I must say, because I really did, since age about 18 to this band, it was really covers and all the rest of it. And it is great to be back in a heavy rock sort of setting again. Real people and real music. Yeah. So and this is probably the best venue for that, without a doubt.
Yeah. I mean, I always say to anyone who gets a chance to go to the Cart and Horses, need to go. Let's go.
Yeah. So come here and see us on April.
Yes, April the 27th.
Before it sells out. It's
It's going to be an absolutely phenomenal show, and looking forward to the phenomenal album release.
And the single that comes first on the 23rd of February.
On the 23rd of February, so...
Monumental album.
The Monumental album. Yeah.
Not nice. It's not a nice album. Monumental.
Monumental album, that's what we're going to call it. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. And we're just, really excited for all that's to come for Gypsy's Kiss over the next few months and prolonging years.
Glad you didn't ask, will we be here in 50 years' time? That's, I'm not sure.
No, perhaps not.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, and we look forward to more. Thank you very much. Thanks. No, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now let's have a trooper.